WNST, and for what should be a chilly little wintry experience. Only supposed to be in the low 40s. We're getting the easy end of the back heel of winter as we make our first time up there in 8 years, up 43 from Milwaukee for the game on Sunday. This guy writes about the Packers, but more the business of the Packers up in Green Bay at the Green Bay Press-Gazette. They're also a Gannett paper, so it's also linked through USA Today Network and the Wisconsin Network there. He is Rich Ryman, PG. That's Press-Gazette out on Twitter. And Rich, first off, welcome in, man. Good to have you on. I do appreciate the time and discussing what is a very, very unique business, the Green Bay Packers, right?
It is, and because of the size of Green Bay, it's a big business here.
Well, yeah, I would say it's right. It's what McCormick or Under Armour or Hopkins is, I guess, in Baltimore as well. More fascinating is the timing of all of this, right? Because we obviously have some turmoil going on at Park Avenue. We have Goodell in the middle of this Jerry Jones-Arthur Blank fight. They actually played each other on the field the other night, and so much was made of that. And I think to some degree it's like the Kardashians, but the Packers don't have that going on. I mean, and I don't know whether that's good or bad. I know there's a president who has a vote, but that dude isn't a dude who's worth $4 billion, who lives life in that way. It's a whole different way of looking at things, I would think, for the Packers uniquely than any other North American sport, right?
Oh, definitely. Mark Murphy is our owner, for lack of a better word, but he obviously has a board of directors he has to answer to. He can't just do things arbitrarily like Jerry Jones can. The Packers will tell you, and I don't have reason enough to disbelieve them, that it's kind of an advantage for them to be in this position in the NFL boardrooms because they're sort of seen as an honest broker because they're not doing anything that's meant to line the pockets of their owner because they can't. So for what that's worth.
Well, there's also the separation of the football and the money side, which went on 20 years ago, that has made it unique, right? And made it a very attractive place to be on the football side of things because you don't have Jimmy Haslam coming down and saying, draft Johnny Manziel, as an example.
Right. And, Mark Murphy could theoretically put his spin on some of this if he wanted to because he is the ultimate say, but you don't have any crossover between the business guys and Ted Thompson, and it's been the approach of the Packers leadership to always let the GM be the GM. And if he does a bad job, they'll get a new GM, but otherwise they tend to leave him alone.
The Ravens played up there a handful of times. My first trip to Green Bay was for the NFC Championship game that Kerry Collins played in, the Panthers, in Brett Favre's first chance to go to the Super Bowl and go down to New Orleans and get the job done against Bledsoe and all that stuff. But I was there that day. It's about 2 degrees. I remember getting my French fries, and they were frozen solid by the time I got out to my seat. And I got my seats. They were Art Modell's family seats, and I actually bought them with my buddy Scott, and we flew out to Chicago and drove up in a beat-up old Volvo that didn't have any heat in it. And, I look now, and literally on the front of your Twitter, there is this beautiful picture of the current, I'm assuming it's current, it looks pretty updated to me. Dude, I don't recognize it, right? All of my pictures are that green exterior and that green bowl, and, there were some skyboxes there 8 years ago, and I saw some of the hotels going up, but that thing has matured and grown. Even the Packer Hall of Fame is completely different than it ever was. I'm expecting to find some place I don't even recognize, sort of like Nashville was 2 weeks ago when I get up to Green Bay, because I haven't been there in 8 years.
If you haven't been here, you will not recognize a lot of it. Since 8 years ago, even they've added the what they call the South End Zone, which is a second tier kind of in the South End Zone is approximately 7,000 more seats, which people don't often realize. Lambeau is the 3rd or 4th largest stadium in the NFL, which even surprises us here sometimes. But they've also added a lot of things around Lambeau. As you mentioned, they've redone the atrium, so there's a big pro shop. The Packers Hall of Fame is there in the atrium, and now on the main floor where it can easily be seen. They've got I guess I would call it a giant tap room out in the parking lot. There used to be a white tent there they called the Tundra Tailgate Zone. Now it's a permanent brick structure that's the Johnsonville Tailgate Village. A lot of people hang out there during the games who don't have tickets. And then across the street on the west side is the Titletown district, which is getting to be a 45-acre development that the Packers are doing. That was kind of initially modeled on Patriot Place, but not really, because it's not a shopping center. It is a park. They've got playgrounds. They've got a full-size football field there that people can just go and run around on if they want to. They've got a microbrewery and restaurant, a four-diamond hotel run by the Kohler Company, which golfers would know about those guys, an orthopedic clinic, and they're about to build a partnership incubator and venture capital business with Microsoft. And there's much more to come after that.
Well, I guess the Packers are trying to attract things there other than, 8 Sundays a year, 10 Sundays a year, whatever it is, right?
Definitely that. I mean, the atrium, the whole remodeling of Lambeau Field accomplished a part of that, because there are a lot of meetings, a lot of conferences and stuff that are held in the Lambeau Field atrium. And you can go there any day of the year and find people from all over the country or all over the world just coming to visit. And the Titletown thing is meant to draw people in, but also part of it is they want to keep young people here in Green Bay rather than having, graduate from college and go off somewhere else.
Well, I don't think anybody ever thinks Green Bay without thinking Packers, right? I mean, if you've been attracted to there, you know about the football team. It is the thing there. It's the only thing there, to some degree, to my eyes, over 20 years to come there, to say, why would you live there? Well, it's chilly there, and it's a little bit remote. I mean, I think it takes a hardy individual to hail from Green Bay, Wisconsin, to be honest with you.
And if you're a young person who's looking for more young people and job opportunities and all of that, I mean, we are the smallest city in the NFL. So we're limited a little bit by size, and they're trying to overcome some of those things so that people will find job opportunities here. And if you're of an entrepreneurial bent and a digital bent, I mean, who better to work with than Microsoft and the Packers?
He is Rich Ryman. He is Rich Ryman PG out on Twitter. He covers the business of the Green Bay Packers for the Green Bay Press-Gazette, and you can find that at GB Press-Gazette as well as at the USA Today Network. They are Gannett-owned. This portion of our WNST programming brought to you by our friends at Deli-ish on Wise Avenue in Dundalk. New York-style deli, serving those Reubens, that lean corned beef that I love so much, and the legit sandwiches like the Curly Fryer. Tasty pickles they cater in. DeliBaltimore.com is the way to find them online. Deli-ish on Wise Avenue in Dundalk. Also, our friends Lee Tessier and his team at Keller Williams American Premier Realty. List your home with them and risk nothing. His team's going to get your place sold. You can learn more at LeeTessier.com as well as the Keller Williams American Premier Realty team. Rich Ryman is our guest from up in Green Bay. He's Rich Ryman PG out on Twitter, covering the business of the Packers for you. And I guess the fact that it is such a community-based organization and one of the big businesses there, that's a 365 thing, including the value of the tickets themselves, right? And whether this is a big weekend, which it's not, by the way, versus other weekends when teams come in there and draw the ticket prices up to $200 to get in, right?
Sometimes they are that high. I think the most expensive game that we've had here this year, if I'm trying to remember back, the season goes so fast. Seattle started out, I mean, right from the get-go, Seattle was a pretty big one initially.
Well, every team's fan base wants to come in, except like Chicago, Minnesota, and Detroit, right? Because they've been there.
They come here all the time, exactly. And on the road, the Packers prices tend to stay up too, because Packer fans travel so well.
They do.
Sort of a almost a perverse example of that is the Packers play in Cleveland on December 10th, and poor Cleveland. The ticket price there for the lowest get-in ticket price for the Packers game is $10 for an NFL ticket. Which
I'm familiar with that. We play there the next week.
Right, and to show you how Packers fans affects things, Jacksonville plays there this weekend. The lowest price is $5. You guys play the week after the Packers. The lowest price is $4. So we're twice the the other lowest.
Dude,
price.
no one here wants to go to Cleveland, believe you me. I'll tell you that right now. But Green Bay, it is sexy, you know. I mean, and for our fans and going out there, and I'll say this, you know, being an old soul, and I can tell from your baseball background and your Civil War history out on Twitter, you have some Packer history in you as well as I have some Colt history in me. I've been doing this for a quarter of a century too, Rich. And back in the 90s, our first trip out there, I have pictures. My hair was blonde. I had a good time. I was a nationally syndicated host. I was actually on the air in Green Bay for a period of time out there as well through my syndicate. And we had a big hootenanny. We took a couple of hundred people out there, and it was a lot of older fellas at that point. I'm talking 20 years ago who were in their 50s and 60s who never made it out there for Johnny U, for a Colts game, for a Bart Starr game. And a lot of my friends took their fathers, you know, on that trip, that it was such a unique opportunity. And tickets were really expensive. It was a $200 get-in. Stadium was smaller. Everything about it was a little bit more 1998 than where it is right now, where everything's been monetized. As you pointed out, you know, all the property there has been maximized in relationships and partnerships. This was literally, we parked our bus on the lawn, literally. Right. 2 blocks south off of 43, we cut a deal with, one of the families that lived there, and we pulled our buses right on up, and I think they brought curds and beer and ice out for us, man, you know?
And that still goes on every weekend. I hear we get letters to the editor all the time from fans who come here their first time here, and they just gush about how well they were treated by everybody. They didn't expect it. And if they've ever been to games in Philadelphia or Oakland, we're like the polar opposite of that if you come to visit. You can get in this weekend. The lowest get-in price that I've been able to find is like $53. And that's, if you're looking for a road game to go to and you want to see Lambeau Field, that's a pretty good price.
Well, the one thing that I notice as a guy who's done these group trips and stuff like that, the room prices are outrageous around there. I mean, it is really, it's Ocean City in the summer. It's $300 for rooms that would be $79 at any other point because there just aren't a whole lot of rooms up there. And, I sort of noticed that going in. It's not as cheap as it used to be in that way, but because of the backup quarterback and, clearly the Ravens are in a depressed state right now at 4-5 as well, it's not a game in demand. If both these teams were 8-2 and both were Super Bowl contenders, I'm sure this would be a $150 ticket.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And it was earlier this year. Before Aaron Rodgers got injured, the ticket prices were 30 to 50% higher for this game than they are right now. But Rodgers dropping off didn't help. The Packers are 1-3 since he got injured. That doesn't help. They beat the Bears, which doesn't really cause anybody to get excited. So, so this could be a good matchup this weekend, though. Both teams they may be evenly matched for this game. So if you like to, if you want to, and I think that a lot of this is happening in Wisconsin too. If you haven't been to Lambeau and you've always thought, well, it's a little expensive for me, this is a chance for people to go. It's also the opening weekend of deer hunting season. So you have a lot of season ticket holders who probably won't leave their tree stands to come to the game just because Rodgers isn't playing, which makes even more tickets available.
Well, okay, so a good, cheap opportunity to get out to Green Bay this weekend. Rich Ryman of the Green Bay Press-Gazette joining us here. All right, so give me the one little tourist thing. I've taken people up to the Oneida Casino. I have taken folks, let's see, we usually stay in Manitowoc. I've taken folks to the Packer Hall of Fame. Obviously, Fuzzy Thurston's Bar was also a place that we always sort of wound up, and I know we lost Fuzzy recently. But give me a thing to do for any Ravens fan going there. Besides eating the cheese and the brats and drinking the beer, which is a religion, by the way.
Certainly the Packers Hall of Fame is worth seeing. It is, a modern. They just opened it a couple of years ago. It's a modern museum, and if you like football, you're gonna get to see plenty of league history in that place. Not to mention 4 Super Bowl trophies.
We got a couple here too, Rich. Be nice now.
Yeah, that's true. We're not talking Cleveland after.
Don't act like you're from Pittsburgh. You're in Green Bay.
And depending on what your interests are, if you have a religious bent, we have a Catholic shrine a little bit north of town here that is the only one that's on its level in the northern hemisphere. And that it draws surprisingly a lot of people every year too. And of course, around Lambeau Field, we've got 5 or 6 microbreweries in town now. So you can, if beer is your want and you want a local thing, there's plenty.
Did I
of
sound
available.
thirsty? I probably did. Yeah. Speaking of that,
you could get thirsty in a hurry cheering for the Ravens. Right?
I'm sure you're going to have a hearty stout up there in the friendly heart of the Midwest, up there in the frozen tundra and all that stuff. I know the game day experience is going to be unbelievable. I know many of our fans are looking to come up there and do it. Rich, really enjoyed the visit with you, man. Thanks for coming on. We're going to send everybody out to the Press-Gazette to find you. Rich Ryman, PG, as well, out on Twitter. Enjoyed the visit in the business of the Packers. We hope the business of the Ravens is beating the Packers on Sunday.
That's fair enough. Appreciate it.
We'll see you noon on Sunday. Rich Ryman covers the business of the Green Bay Packers for the USA Today Network and for the Green Bay Press-Gazette. All of our programming here brought to you by our friends at G&A Coney Island Hot Dogs in Highlandtown, the best hot dogs in the world. Period. G&A restaurant. I've been eating them since I was a kid. I get the chili and the ketchup mixed in. I don't usually mix the chili with the relish, but sometimes relish ketchup, sometimes chili ketchup, sometimes just chili. I don't usually do chili cheese. I don't know why. Maybe I'm going to change that. You know what I am going to do? I'm going to do the French fries and gravy because Andy keeps trying to pour that onto me. But I'm trying to get my figure together here, and that's exactly why we send out the morning newspaper. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness at PlanetFitness.com. So after the chili and the cheese and the fries, I'll head to Planet Fitness. $10 a month, judgment-free, always at Planet Fitness. They deliver our morning newspaper. Everything you hear here you can find in the Buy at Toyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. On your mobile device, just download the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere you are. Big shout out to our friends at Costas, as well as Fremont Mortgage for sponsoring our big swabbing and radio show with CJ Mosley at Costas Inn. Good enough for the Today Show, good enough for my mom, Fat Crabs, cold beer, and good football conversation with CJ Mosley. Big thanks to Costas, as well as our friend at Friends. We have many of them at Fremont Mortgage and Carl Delmont. Good luck to the Heat as well. We'll get the Heat is on, as they say. I'll get Carl on here. Next week we'll talk some soccer as well as some swabbing. You can find me anywhere the internet is served. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook, including from Lambeau Field all weekend long, and out on YouTube on our WNSTV channel as well. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.